Poppin' YouTube, what's going on, man? It's your boy Ink in the Brain, man. We back at it like a bad habit. Shout out to everybody who's tuning in. Please hit your like button on the way in. I have another episode of my prison experience to share with y'all today. Today I'm going to be touching on my first day hitting the level 3 prison yard. Cheyenne Prison Yard to be exact. Cheyenne is a prison yard in Yuma. It's a level 3 yard, which means that it houses everybody from multiple life sentences to people like myself who just maybe have a couple years, or maybe people who just have a few months. But if you have a violent case, they're going to send you to a 3 yard off top. You're not going to no 2 yard. And it's funny because my lawyer, you know, when we're going through litigation and stuff, he's telling me like, oh yeah, but if you do get prison time, most likely you'll just hit like minimum security yards. It ain't really gonna be that big deal. So I'm like, okay, but yeah, he might have been trying to sell me a dream, or he might have honestly thought I was gonna go to 2 yard. Because like I said, if you have below 5 years, more times than not you're supposed to go to a 2 yard. But recently things have changed, right? But anyway, so I'm hitting the 3 yard, right? All right, so boom. So we're on the bus. I'll pick up from we left off. Well, actually, I'll pick up from the bus where me, Shadow, we're on, right? So we're riding, right? There's no on the transition bus. There's no windows, so you can't really see outside the windows. All you can do is see outside the front windshield, and you can barely see that. So we're just driving, and I see in front of me that there's this big box and it has everybody's name on it, and I saw an envelope with my name on it. So when I saw that, I thought that the court had actually sent me my paperwork while I was in Alhambra and intake, and that it was that. So I assumed that I was wrong though. It just everybody has an envelope with their name on it, and it's just anything you brought to the county with you or to reception with you, then they send with you. But yeah, I thought my paperwork is in there, but it wasn't. But I'll get back to that. So, yeah, man, long story short, I don't really want to drag the transition part on too long with this, but they had to divvy everybody out and send people to different yards, right? So what they did was they first took us to a complex called Buckeye. Actually, it's Lewis Complex in Buckeye. That's where Steiner, Maury, all the yards is at. They have a couple 2 yards over there too. So it turns out that that S and Rhino, they were going to stick with Steiner. So he pulled up, and then they drop off at Steiner. We're like, man, yeah, good luck in there, y'all. Steiner was popping from what I was hearing. And so, but everybody else, get off the bus, and they put you on a different shuttle bus to take you to wherever you were going to go. So they put me, this white blood from Brooklyn, and then these 2 youngster Chicanos on the bus with me. It was just 4 of us. And Boogie and Shadow, and then they still hit Cheyenne too, but they just went on a different bus, right? So on the way to Yuma, we just chopping it up. We just, talking shit, swallowing spit. Turns out the white blood from Brooklyn, cool cat, man, but he had to do 4 years, and he had just did like 3.5 years in New York. So, and he's telling me he's like, yeah, man, he's like, when I get to the yard, man, I'm telling everybody I'm running kinfolk. Cause I grew up with all black people. I'm from a black gang, all this and that, right? I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, that's what's up. I'm like, but in the back of my head, I know, like, man, Brody gonna have some issues, man, because just to give y'all some game about the prison system, man, hopefully y'all never go to prison, man. And again, this is for educational purposes only. Nothing in my videos glorify this or nothing of the sort. Ain't nothing cool about going to prison or jail, right? But it's very political. It's very racially segregated. So white boys, they gonna expect you to run with white boys because you're white. Now, if you grew up with black people, or you a Crip or Blood or something like that, you better have been banging that shit in the county. You feel what I'm saying? Like when you first hit the county jail, don't act like don't, basically you gotta carry it through and through. You feel me? if you're gonna run with the blacks as a white boy, you gotta do it from county jail and from reception. Otherwise, it's gonna be all bad, right? And even then, the white boys still ain't gonna rock with it. So chances are you're gonna have a hard time, right? So I'm thinking like, all right, Brody. He was cool, man. Balenci, they call him Balenci. But Balenci was cool, man. But and then the other two Chicanos, they young. They was like 18, 19 years old. Like one of them had like 3 years, the other had like 5. And I gotta do my 2, right? So we just on the road, we just chopping it, man. And then it's a real long. Well, no, it wasn't too long. It was like a 2-hour ride, but it's just this long ride down this freeway, man. You're basically going towards Mexico. So you're going down south. Man, so basically we get to the Yuma complex, man, and take you down this other road, man, and you can just see the barbed wire fences and everything. You feel me? You're like, okay, like I'm here now. It's where the big boys is at, man. Ain't no time to cry, complain, or none of that. Ain't no time to tuck your tail or none of that shit. Whatever you was doing on the streets, you know what I mean, committing crime that got you this time, you better go sit it down like a man. You feel me? So I wasn't stressing. I wasn't honest to God. Like, I'm the farthest thing from a gangster. I'm not a tough guy or nothing. But by this point, you know what I mean, fighting this case, going through my injuries and my accident, going through all this, having my jaw wired and all this, man, going through all this mental turmoil, I was ready. I was really ready. I was ready to hit the yard. I was ready for everything that came with it. So boom. So I know I'm going to hit like a 3-yard most likely, right? Because, again, I didn't know my points. I never asked, but I assumed most likely I was going to hit a 3-yard. Best case scenario, I was going to hit a 2. But the 2 drivers, man, it was these 2 Mexican drivers, right? They barely spoke English, right? They take us to the 4-yard in Yuba. So they take us to the Dakota, which is the 4-yard there. So we pull up to the gate, the front gate, and it says, "Welcome to Dakota" on the outside. And it looks like, you can tell it's a high security yard, right? I'll put it like that. Man, I'm like, what the hell are we doing here? I'm like, nah, they gonna send your boy to a 4-yard? My first time down and all this shit? I'm like, nah. And then, I can't remember, somebody asked the 2 drivers, the front, right? And they asked them like, man, what are we doing here? I thought we were supposed to go to 3 yards or something. And they was like, oh no, you guys are gonna stay here for 14 days. I'm like, wait, what? Yeah, 14 days of quarantine. I'm like, oh, hell no. So I'm like, damn, so we gotta be on the 4-yard for 14 days before we hit a 3? I'm like, man, what? Come to find out, they was just joking with us though. They was just clowning, like they thought it was funny, I guess. But yeah, man, so I thought I was gonna hit a 4-yard. I'm like, what the hell? But anyway, the reason why they brought us to Dakota is there's some kind of process. I forget exactly what the process was, but they put you in these cages, the different cages, and they call you out and like, verify your name and your social security number and all this stuff, right? And it's basically like another maybe 2 to 3 hour process, and you're just stuck out there in holding cages. Again, it's freezing cold. You out there in a t-shirt. You out there in shower shoes on. You know what I mean? And then, and yeah, we in the big cages, man. And I seen Shadow in there. I seen Boogie in there. So we all just in there chilling. But we ain't saying nothing though. It's like, man, we were looking forward to going to prison to get out of intake, but now that we're here, it ain't really. the mood is still kind of somber. You feel me? But I don't know. I think I can see it in Shadow's face. Because Shadow has said several things like, and trust me, Shadow is a gangster through and through. Like, he's standing on business and all this shit, right? But even him was still kind of concerned about hitting a 3-yard because, again, with the politics, like, especially if you're Mexican, you're gangbanging, you're going to be on the front line. You feel what I'm saying? You're going to be expected to do certain things. And Shadow knew that. And he didn't want to turn his 2 years into 20 years. You feel me? Because that happens a lot. You'd be surprised how somebody will walk in with 5 years to do, and then get into a fight with somebody, knock somebody out, and then dude hit his head, you know what I mean, on the floor and crack his head open, and then now he died, and now he catch another 10. That happens a lot. So, And that's a valid concern to have, you know? So I kind of see in his face, like, I was like, damn, I'm here now. Like, I wonder what this ride is going to be like, right? So, yeah, so, you know, so we just going through the little protocol, man, at Dakota. They gave us some more sack lunches, and we ate those. And then, yeah. But then, so then everybody who was staying at Dakota stayed there. I was actually supposed to go to Cibola, which from what I was hearing, Cibola is another 3-yard on the Yuma complex, but it has AC. It's in a huge warehouse. It's supposed to be way cleaner, and it's not as much drama from what I heard. And it's a yard that only houses people over 25 years old. You know, so the wild youngsters with, you know, 18, 19 years old who got 15 years to do, you know, they the wild ones. They always want to punch on shit and, you know what I mean, do all this crazy shit, man. So I was kind of hoping to hit that. And I was supposed to, right? Because they called me up and I was like, man, what yard am I supposed to hit? Because like, I didn't even know my points or nothing. And they was like, he's like, oh yeah, you're going to Cibola. I was like, all right, cool. But then come to find out, man, Cibola had a real bad coronavirus issue, man. So they had to switch me to go to Cheyenne. So I'm like, damn, because Cheyenne, there is no AC. And Cheyenne's popping. It's Cheyenne's most popular yard on the Yuma complex. You feel me? So I'm like, damn, so I'm going to be where all the drama's at. I'm like, all right, it is what it is. This is where I'm at. So yeah, so they take us down to Cheyenne. Everybody who was supposed to go to Cheyenne, they take us to this office, sit us down, and then they give you a sack, and it has like a blanket, a sheet for your bed, a towel. I think it may have even an extra set of clothes in there for you, and like a pair of socks and a pair of boxers. And they give you like 3 brand new pair of boxers and like a toothbrush and a toilet paper roll. I think that's all they had. So they give you your bag, and then they tell you what cell you're going to go into. And come to find out, Boogie gonna be my cellie. So I'm like, dang. I'm like, now see, I never had a problem with Boogie. I never really spoke to him like that much when we was in the cell. But he had some mental issues. You know what I mean? Like for example, right? And this ain't to demean Boogie again. This is all for educational purposes only. This is for y'all to get a grasp of what it's like in prison. So hopefully y'all never have to go. You know what I mean? But it's better to stay ready, stay prepared, so you don't have to get prepared. You know what I mean? You never know what could happen. Like I said, in my case, I was drunk. I was reckless though, and this ain't no cop out. I was reckless. I was drunk. You know what I mean? Speed and shit. Wrecked my whip and happened to hit somebody. Now thank God that she's still here. You know what I mean? I'm still here, but yeah. Now you aggravated assault with deadly, so now you booked. You know what I mean? So y'all need to understand that it may not be an overt crime that can get you some time, but sometimes it may be covert. You feel what I'm saying? Hell, I ran across people in the joint who got like 3-4 DUIs, and on that 4th DUI, they gave him 10 years for aggravated DUI. So yeah, man. So this is just to learn. But yeah, back to Boogie, right? So one day we in the cell when we was in intake, and you know, we just chopping it, you know, and he starts telling us about his family. He got daughters and stuff. And he was like, yeah, he was like, man, demons are trying to break my daughter. And I be seeing demons, man. They trying to break my daughter and shit. And we were like, whoa, wait, what? I'm like, now I believe in the spiritual world, so I'm not gonna per se say he's crazy, because if he claims that he sees demons, I think there's definitely such things as demons, but stuff like that had me feeling like, Brody might be not all the way there in the head, and he said some other crazy shit too, but and his mannerisms and stuff kind of shows me that he's a little off, right? But still a good dude though, real soft-hearted dude, kind-hearted dude. And he was a beast too when he had hands, like that was the crazy part, but real soft, nice guy though, so. But yeah, so Boogie gonna be on celly, man. So they walk us out. We still in shower shoes, right? It's hella uncomfortable being in these punk ass shower shoes, man. And then you know, take the mat. So we walk up to the building. They pop the gate, and then they just tell you, yeah, you in building 11. I was in building 11, C16 high. Yeah, C16 low. No, C16 high. That's what I was in. High. There's a high bunk and then a low bunk. So I'm like, all right, bet. So So yeah, so they cracked the gate, we walked through, man, and there's two sides of Cheyenne. It's a big yard. It got the barbed wires and everything. It looks straight like prison, like your prototypical high-level prison yard. It looks like that. So I'm walking through, I'm just like, damn, it's a trip. Like knowing that this is your new home, your new environment. Like, you know what I mean? I ain't gonna lie too. Like I gotta keep it honest with y'all. It was easy for me to kind of just fly through my time because it was only 2 years. And even though 2 years is still a long time to just be sitting down in prison, but I knew like people on this yard are gonna have a lot more time than me. So you got people doing triple lives, people doing 25 to life, people doing 20s, 10s, 15s, but all you feel me, everything in between. So I'm like, damn, I'm like, all right, this is what it is. So yeah, so I'm walking to the building 11, man, and I'm just pushing. I'm just looking around. I see people on the yard. I see some people congregating outside of building 10. Which is weird because Cheyenne is a lockdown yard now. Like from what I heard, like a few years ago, it used to be more open, where they would open the door, you could go outside. It's more of an open kind of movement. But now it's all controlled movement. So you on lockdown basically 2023. Well, you basically on lockdown except if you go to rec or if you go to chow. Otherwise, now you locked down, right? But when they're doing moves, which I guess on this day they were doing moves, you know, they had new arrivals coming in, people moving. On those days, you can get away with kind of being outside and congregating because somebody, you know, you might be helping like every race helps their race move. So you might have somebody move from building 10 to 11. So you got the Mexican cats, you know, carrying their stuff, and then they walk to building 10 or vice versa, and then they chop game with somebody else over there, and then come back 10 minutes later. So that was the environment at the time, right? So I'm just peeping. I'm like, okay, so I get up to building 11, me and Boogie, they buzz us in, and then there's four runs per dorm, and there's like 11 dorms altogether. So we in C. So we walk up to C, and then the CO in the bubble, they're about to buzz us in, but we walk up to the door, and I look inside, and I just remember seeing the inside of the run and thinking like, man, this is a dungeon. It looked crazy. It's really like a culture shock though. When you first hit the yard, it's like a culture shock. But and you smell nothing but cigarette smoke. You could just tell it's a dungeon, man. It's a real dungeon over there, man. And you know what I mean? It was cold when I got there though, because I got there in December, so it wasn't hot yet. So I didn't experience that until later on that summer, but I'll talk about that later. But yeah, man. So I look in, and then I see a brother come up. You know, he got short dreads. He got glasses on. He got his like face hella tatted. Black dude. They call him 16, man. Shout out to 16, man. But yeah, 16. So I'm looking him in the face. I'm like, man, this nigga, what the hell is he in here for? Cause he look crazy. He like, oh, what's up? He's like, what's up, guys? He a crip. What's up, guys? Hey, he's like, oh, y'all coming in here? We like, yeah. He's like, okay, bet. And he back up, and cause they was playing, when we walked in, they were playing poker that day when we got in. So, but it was kind of in the middle, not in the middle of the run, but kind of blocking the run. So I think he was like, all right, bet. And he walked. I think he moved the table back a little bit. They buzzed us in, and then I see myself, but 16, he like, hey, bro, he's like, I'm gonna help you make your bid. Cause you know, that's typical protocol. When you hit the yard, basically what I'm trying to say, man, when you hit the yard, right, your people is gonna greet you. You know what I mean? They're gonna make sure you're straight. If you need some soap or something like that, they're gonna give it to you. One of the other Cali homies gave me a pair of shoes. It was funny because I met him, well, actually I'll say that, I'll talk about that here soon. But your people, you know what I mean, they're gonna greet you. They're gonna it's really not a confrontational at first, you feel me? But like 16, I mean, he helped me make my bed and shit. He was like, okay. He's like, came over to our cell. He's just talking to me and Bucky. He's like, all right. He's like, where y'all coming from? And you know, they're gonna ask you this normal question: where you coming from? What you down for? You feel me? And 16's like, man, y'all got everything. And I know what he meant by that. He basically meant like, I got your paperwork. Feel me? And I thought I did, so I'm like, yeah, it's all good. I'm like, but it's coming in the morning. You don't get your property till the next morning. He's like, all right, it's all good. And then he was like, okay, you from Cali? He's like, okay. He's like, once they crack the gate again, go holler, Go holler at So Much. He the tatted nigga. He got tats on his face, bald headed nigga. Go holler at him, right? I'm like, all right. Cause So Much, he like had the, well, he didn't have the Cali car at the time, but he was, I guess you could say he was one of the reps, I guess you could say. The dude who really had the car, he was kind of on some weird shit. I'll maybe talk about it another day, but he, well, yeah, I definitely will have to talk about him another time. But I'm like, all right, bet. So they pop the gate again. I go outside. Feel me? So I'm like, all right. I'm like, it is what it is. I'm like, all right, I'm in here. Feel me? I've been waiting for this moment for like 3-4 years now. So, or what now? Like 3 years, 2020, 2017. So yeah, so I'm ready. So I go over to Building 10. It's hella people outside, right? And then, matter of fact, I skipped the part. I don't know what part this was on, but I remember when I was walking up to the building, I don't think it was when I had my mat yet though, because I remember shaking dude him, but I remember walking past, I'm walking up the yard, and then I see a youngster. A little black youngster, right? And they call him Jack Boy. And then and he see me walking, and he see me on his shower shoes. So he get on the gate. He like, hey, what's up, bro? I'm like, what's up, man? And he like, where you coming from? You know, the regular question. I'm coming from Alhambra. What you want? I'm like, he like, oh, okay, what's your name? I'll tell him my name. He's like, I'm Jack Boy. I'm like, all right, I bet. Like, you know, you shake their hand through the gate, doing to him. He like, all right, yeah. He's like, oh, you from? He's like, where you from? I'm like, I'm from Cali, from the Bay Area. What you want? He like, he's the one that told me to holler at So Much. Actually, it wasn't 16. He was like, okay. He was like, okay. He was like, how old are you? I told my age. He was like, okay. He was like, well, he was like, yeah. He was like, go holler at So Much, man, and you know, he'll give you the rundown pretty much. So boom. So I go holler at So Much. Down mother, she's like, oh, what's up, okay, what you want? I'm like, he from San Diego. So yeah, so we just chopping it, feel me, popping it, and yeah, he like, all right. He's like, well, you got another Cali brother in B Run, I think it was in B Run, named Marsh. He's like, go holler at him, feel me, and then since we on lockdown, he was like, once you get your paperwork, he was like, show it to 16. I guess because him and 16 were real close, right? And a Cali dude is supposed to check another Cali dude's paperwork, but since we was on lockdown, it really wouldn't been no way for me to get it to him. So he told me to show it to 16, and then 16 will basically verify with him that I'm all good. So I'm like, all right, bet. But then, yeah, then I met Marsh. I think he was coming out the door as I was coming back in. And then I met him, and he was like, okay, and then he was cool too. And he big as hell too. And he's like, you need some shoes? He's like, what size? No, he's like, what size shoe you wear? I'm like, what you mean, what size shoes I wear? Did you try me? Like, nah, what size shoe you wear? Because I don't have no shoes, right? So they gonna give you some shoes if you don't have shoes, things like that. I'm like, all right, bet. I'm size 12. So he gave me some old ass pair of Rawlings to work out in. I'm like, all right, cool. So I got shoes. He's like, anything else? I'm like, nah, hell nah. But I did need some food though. I was hungry as a motherfucker. I didn't have no soap. You feel me? No deodorant. You feel me? People previous video I shared about how I didn't use any deodorant soap for 57 days. So I was stinking like a motherfucker. But I would have definitely liked some soap. But I went into prison knowing like I'm not asking nobody for nothing. I don't care what it is or how bad I'm down. I'm not asking nobody for shit. But your people, they gonna make sure you right, you know what I mean? And then, and yeah. So, but yeah, and then I'll leave the video with this, man. If you do happen to hit a high-level prison yard, man, make sure you walk with confidence and walk with a pep in your step, man. Because I remember just walking in there, I'm like, I really wasn't tripping. I'm like, all right, bet. I'm like, this is what it is. I'm just peeping the scene. And then, and I'll have a story about Memphis later, but one of the bros in Memphis, he said when I first hit the yard, he was like, he noticed me. He was like, damn, who the hell is this nigga? He was like, because I was walking like I own the place. He was like, man, he must have came from a 4-yard or something and been excited to hit 3. Like really, he thought I came from a 4-yard and dropped down to a 3, and I'm like happy that I got to a 3 because that was the vibe that I gave him for my walk. You know what I mean? And I was like, okay, cool. I'm like, you feel me? That just showed me like I walk with confidence. You know what I'm saying? And then, yeah, and then that night, oh yeah, let me just touch on this too. So boom, so we get the cell situated, we clean up the cell. You know, obviously we don't have nothing, no TVs or anything. But I'm just sitting at the top of my cell and I'm just peeping what's going on. You know what I'm saying? Like I said in the previous video, I'm gonna always say this, man. Whenever you hit a new yard, or a new cell block, whatever it is, you just want to peep the body language of people. You know what I'm saying? See what's going on. See how people are interacting. Are people on edge? Are people not talking? Is it dead quiet? Because if people aren't talking, it's dead quiet. That means there's an issue and something's gonna pop, right? But you know, people are congregating and conversating. You feel what I'm saying? And you got brothers playing poker. You got you know, you got people rapping. You got my neighbor was getting tatted that night. He was getting tatted by one of the chiefs. The chief tat man was in the run, so he tatted. So I'm like, all right. So I got the tat man next to me. He tagged one of the brothers, Cash. He tagged his back. I'm like, all right. And I asked him, I'm like, damn, bro. I'm like, how much you charge for a tat? I'm just curious. You know, I'm just asking questions. He was like, he didn't tell me the price, but he was like, man, we can work it out. He's like, just holler at me when you're, we can work it out. He was like, I won't. He basically hinted like, I won't overcharge you. We can work it out. So I'm like, all right, bet. I'm like, so he cool, he's straight. I'm like, I know 16. I met his little partner on it, little youngster on it. I'm like, all right. It is what it is. And then on the 3 yard, you know, like I said, it's politicking going on. So anytime a CO comes in and out the run, you're gonna hear one time. So, you know, every 20 or 30 minutes, you know, you hear one time. Police unlock the door, walk in, they just do their run, you know, walk up the run, one back. So, and people call out one time, so that way, you know, if you're doing something you're not supposed to do, like if you tagging somebody or you're getting high, or you're making hooch, or which is prison alcohol, whatever you're doing, right? They call out one time so you can get prepared to stop doing what you're doing, not get caught, right? So I'm just peeping how, you know, peeping the politics, you know? And I literally just stood at the top of my, or sat at the top of my bed, just looking all around, like, until they shut the lights off. And they shut the lights off at 8:30. And then, yeah, the lights went off. And you just see all the TVs on and the lights popping. So I'm like, okay, this is what prison's like. But yeah, man, that was my first day, man. Well, my first half day. You know what I'm saying? They told me, like, yeah, you know, because the California car, it's supposed to be ran pretty tight, and it is ran tight to a certain degree, but a lot of these things be capping, man. They was like, all right, because when I hollered so much, he's like, okay, he's like, yeah, this is get down, you know, it's mandatory yard. I'm like, shit, I work out all the time anyway, so that ain't no problem. I'm gonna be at rec anyway. You feel me? He's like, yeah, he was like, you can't get high unless you're over 35. I'm like, y'all allow people to get, I'm like, bro, I don't get high. I'm like, man, hell no, but I'm like, okay. And then, so he's just telling me certain rules and shit. I'm like, all right. But let's just say some people are hypocrites, man. But I'll leave it right there, man. But hey, this is your boy Ink in the Brain, man. Please hit the like video on the way out. Subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll catch you on the next one, man. Y'all be smooth and be solid.